factoring this trinomial. So remember, in a trinomial, it's in the form y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So a is the number in front of x, so a is 1. I'm sorry, in front of x squared. B is the number in front of x, b is 5. C is the constant, c is 4. So how you factor this is you ask yourself what multiplies to AC. So A times C, A is 1, C is 4, 1 times 4 is 4. So it needs to multiply to AC, it needs to add to the B, which in this case is 5. So 1 times 4 is 4, negative 1 times negative 4 is 4, and 2 times 2 is 4. So of these, the one that also adds to 5 is the 1 and the 4. So what we can do is we can use the box. And so we can use some highlighting to show you where each number comes from. All right, so this x squared goes right here. So you're going to put that right there. Okay, the bottom right corner of the box comes from right here. So you're going to do plus 4 goes right there. All right. Then the two numbers we had right here, that makes the other two boxes. It doesn't matter which one goes where. I kind of think in my head which one makes sense. So you see this 4 right here? I'd like the 4 next to it. They just go together. It just makes sense in my head. So you don't just put 4, you put 4x, and you don't just put 1, you put 1x. So technically, what I have in the box is the same thing as right here. Here's x squared. Here's the plus 4. And then 1x plus 4x is 5x. So this box is the same as what I started with. I've changed how it looks, but it still means the same thing. Okay, so how you factor is you look for what the GCF or the greatest common factor is on the top. So I can pull an x out of both x squared and x. And then on the bottom row, I look for the GCF. Both of these divide by 4. No x's because this has an x, but this doesn't. So I put a 4 here. Okay, and then I'm looking in this column for a GCF. So think of this like a 1x squared and a 4x. So the only thing that comes out of both of these is an x. And what I like to do is a quick check just to make sure I'm on the right track. So x times x is x squared. That checks out. And x times 4 is 4x. That also checks out. Okay, now in this column, this has an x, but this doesn't, so you can't pull an x out. So the number that divides into both 1 and 4 is just 1. So it's a positive 1. Quick check here. 1 times x is 1x. 1 times 4 is 4. So if you just make sure that it's working out when you multiply it, if you just go ahead and check your answer, you'll get it right, or at least know you've gotten it right at the end. So it's x plus 1 times x plus 4. And that is factored 4. Okay, let's try another one. So on this one, 3x squared minus 21x minus 9. This 3 in front makes me want to check, is this all divisible by 3? And it is. If you see, you can divide each number by 3. So we can rewrite it by taking the 3 out in front. So if you were to divide it by 3, that's x squared. Negative 21 divided by 3, that's negative 7x. Negative 90 divided by 3 is negative 30. So if you just double check real quick, 3 times x squared is 3x squared. 3 times negative 7x is negative 21x. 3 times negative 30 is negative 90. So when we get our answer, don't forget that 3 hanging out in front. You'll write it down. I like to go ahead and just write down the box for my answer so that I don't forget that 3. Okay, so what we're factoring is this. X squared minus 7x minus 30. So remember, we ask ourselves what multiplies to AC, which A is 1, C is negative 30, so 1 times negative 30 is negative 30, and adds to B, which is negative 7. So think about things that multiply to negative 30, okay? Because it multiplies to negative, it's going to be a positive with a negative. It's like 1 times negative 30, or negative 1 times 30, 2 times negative 15, or negative 2 times 15, 3 times negative 10, or negative 3 times positive 10, and 5 and negative 6, or negative 5 and positive 6. So one of those pairs also adds to negative 7. It's this one right here, 3 and the negative 10. So you're going to use your box. So remember that the top left corner of the box comes from right here. It's just x squared. Okay, the bottom right corner of the box comes from right here. It's negative 30. And then these two numbers we found, the 3 and the negative 10, they're making up these two boxes, but we're going to do 3x and negative 10x. Now, either one can go in either place. I'm going to put the 3x here and the negative 10x here. Okay, so quick check. X squared is still there. 3x minus 10x is negative 7x, and negative 30 is still there. So we're on the right track. So I'm doing the GCF out of the top row. It's just x. Now, think about what divides into negative 10 and negative 30. 10 goes in, but because this box right here is negative, you pull a negative out. So don't just put 10, put negative 10. And then this is x. And then out of this column, 3x and 30 is 3. And because that 3x is positive, this box is positive, pull out a positive number. This box controls positive or negative here. This box controls positive or negative here. Quick check to see if they multiply. X times x is x squared. Negative 10 times x is negative 10x. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 10 is negative 30. So we did a great job. So in our parentheses, it's x plus 3 and x minus 10. You have to have that 3 out in front that we factored out, though, or it won't be completely correct. Okay, so looking at number 7, when you have a negative out there in front, okay, so you're like, oh, there's a negative in front. Factor that negative out first. What factoring a negative does is switches all the signs. So it's changing each plus to a minus and each minus to a plus. So if you picture distributing it back in, it would work. Okay, so when you get your answer, the negative has to be out in front. So I'm going to go ahead and write that negative there. Okay, so what we're factoring is this. This is what we're going to just come out to the side here and factor. So I have x squared minus 13x plus 40. So it has to multiply to AC. A is 1, C is 40, so 1 times 40 is 40. It has to add to B. B is negative 13. Okay, so if it multiplies to a positive, then it's either 2 positives or 2 negatives. Now, since it adds to negative, honestly, guys, I know it's going to be 2 negatives. So, like, it could be 1 and 40, 2 and 20, 4 and 10, or 5 and 8, but none of those will add to a negative 13. So I'm pretty confident that it's going to be negatives of each of these. These will multiply to a positive, but they're going to add to a negative. So one of these pairs adds to negative 13, and it's this one right here. So we're going to make our box. Okay, the first corner of our box is right here. It's x squared. The bottom right corner of our box is right here. It's 40. Sorry about that. And let's see here. The two numbers that we came up with, the negative 5 and the negative 8, they make these. And you can choose either one. I'm going to put the negative 8x up here and the negative 5x down here. Don't forget to put the x's on them because negative 5 and negative 8 is negative 13. It has to have this x, so they both have to have the x's. Okay, anytime I see x squared, I know this is x and this is x. Okay, remember what I said. This box pulls out a negative 5, so the negative 5 comes out here. Because this box is negative, that's how you know it's negative. What divides into 5 and 40 is 5. Now, out of this box, if this is negative, you pull out a negative. This one also happens to be negative 8. So quick check to see if they multiply, and they do. Keep that negative on the outside that we factored out and write down x minus 5 and x minus 8. And this is your answer. These are your factors. Okay, this one I like. Let's try this one. AC. When I see this, I'd like to factor something out, but nothing. Like if you try to divide by 2, well, that works on 6, but not on 7. You try to divide by 3, that works on 6, but not on 7 or 5. So we're just kind of stuck. So AC, 6 times negative 5 is negative 30. B is 7. Okay, so it's got to multiply to negative 30. So one number is negative and one is positive. So it could be 2 and 15, and it could be 3 and 10. Okay, in terms of which one it is, I think it's 3 and negative, oops, JK. I think it is not that. I think it's negative 3 and 10. Sorry, that makes 7. So we're going to go ahead and use our box. Okay, 6x squared is in the top left, negative 5 is in the bottom right, and we use negative 3 and 10 in our other two boxes. I'm going to use 10 in this box because I like it with the 5. It makes sense to me. And then negative 3x up here. Okay, this one's a little bit harder because we have just bigger numbers that don't come out just completely. We're going to do factors. So think about what divides nicely into 6 and 3. The biggest number is 3. 3 divides into 6, 3 divides into 3. So I'm going to pull out 3x. All right, think about what divides into 10 and negative 5. 5 divides into both. So I'm going to pull out a positive 5. And I do it positive because this is positive, so this number is positive. Now in this column, what comes out of 6 and 10? And let's see, 10 doesn't divide by 3, but it does by 2, so it's 2x. Okay, quick check and multiply, see if you're doing okay. 2x times 3x is 6x squared. That's correct. 2x times 5 is 10x. That's correct. Okay, do this column. So what divides into 3 and 5 is just 1, but because this is negative, it needs to be a negative 1. All right, so check this column. Negative 1 times 3x is negative 3x. That's good. Negative 1 times 5 is negative 5. Okay, it totally checks out. So our answer is 2x minus 1, 3x plus 5. And that is what our solution is. Those are our two factors. Okay, I'll go ahead and do these for you. So I'll help you pause and complete them. On this first one, just remember that A is 1, B is 0 because there's no x, and C is negative 25. Try it with the box method. On the second one, factor out a negative first. That will always make your answers easier to find and more accurate. So factor the negative out, everything switches signs. Now you're going to use A is 3, B is negative 11, C is negative 20. And your answer will look like this. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. You pause the video and work on it, and we'll come back and see what we have. Okay, so on this one, I had my A, B, and C. Multiplies to negative 25, adds to 0 is negative 5 and positive 5. So I use that right here. And I factored, I got x plus 5 times x minus 5. And then over here, I factored my negative out. So what I'm actually factoring when I'm looking at my A, B, and C is this right here. Here's my A, B, and C. So that was kind of hard because it had to multiply to negative 60 and add to negative 11, but my numbers were 4 and negative 15. You can see them right here. And then I factored out, and I got 3x plus 4 and x minus 5. But remember, you must have that negative in front.